blame the snow on that. We'll blame anything that goes wrong or might end up being some kind of challenge on the snow this afternoon. Hope everybody is staying safe, staying warm as best you can. You might be listening to us in a warm place if that is the case. Congrats to you. But the show will go on. It will for the next 3 hours. We appreciate you hanging out with us this afternoon. Jason Swain is here, VFL, former Tennessee wide receiver. I'm Josh Ward. We have Tommy Sweat producing for us today. And we have a lot to talk about this afternoon. We will head into a big sports weekend. Playoff action will continue as Notre Dame got the win last night, knocking off the Penn State Nittany Lions to advance to the national championship game to take on either Ohio State or Texas. That game will take place tonight. So we'll talk about the second college football playoff game that will take place here for the semifinal round. And we'll talk about NFL playoff games. We'll talk about Tennessee at Texas. The Lady Vols losing a heartbreaker against LSU last night, and whatever else is on your mind, the future of Tennessee athletics continues to be a part of the conversation. You can join the conversation today. Call or text at 865-656-9900. Text box will remain open this afternoon, so we'd love to hear from you there. We'll hear from you on the phone lines as well. Jason Swain, good afternoon. How are you?
What's up, man? I'm good, man. Happy to be here. It is snowing outside. I'm just ready for enough snow to accumulate so I can get outside and make a snowman, snow angels, and throw snow at my kids.
We're going to go sledding?
We're not. No, we're not.
Okay.
I sprung my thumb yesterday scrolling on my phone, going through tweets, and my thumb started hurting. I said, you know what? It's probably not smart to go out and start sledding. So, now I'm just going to throw snowballs at my kids and hopefully don't get hurt.
Okay. Swain will be Buddy the Elf out there, just letting them rip, as Drew Aller did last night, late, threw an interception. That's tough. He doesn't throw a lot of picks. He threw a costly one late against Notre Dame, and then Riley Leonard and the Irish made him pay, got the field goal from Jeter, and Notre Dame is on to the title game.
0 catches, 0 yards, 0 touchdowns for the Penn State receivers. And so on that play, I think it was an example of what Drew Aller had to deal with all game long. I mean, there was no separation anywhere on that last intercepting play from Penn State. And so for them to even be in that game with the receivers not doing anything on the outside, I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean, you got to have big plays on the outside. Notre Dame, even though they haven't necessarily made their living through the air their season, they made those plays when it mattered, when it counted. So I think that's one of the stories of the game last night.
Yeah, how about the story of Notre Dame? The season that they've played, they lost to Northern Illinois, probably written off in that moment. Even as the season went along, there was so much. But Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois when talking about them as a playoff team, and then they're 11-1, and everybody knew they'd just be in, but probably still kind of written off as a real contender knowing their playoff history. And we'll see in the title game what ends up happening. But here they are. They're in the title game. They went through Georgia to get there. They knocked off Penn State. They've had to play 3 games. They didn't get a first-round bye. They're ineligible for that. And I think it was Love that said, we want to get a shot at Ohio State again. We want to play the best. They're the best. We want to play them in the championship game.
And that's the mentality you should have. I mean, I think Ohio State is the best team remaining right now. They're the most explosive. They have the most depth, the most talent. They have a great coaching staff. We got a chance to experience that. So, yeah, I think Ohio State is the best. I think they will play Ohio State. Thinking about Notre Dame last night and their journey over the last couple of months and the last couple of years, it's hard not to think about Chip Kelly, who left Notre Dame because he didn't feel like he had a chance to win a championship. Here's Marcus Freeman, who has a chance to win a championship, going through probably a harder process, a harder road than what Brian Kelly had to go through when he got to the final game against Alabama, even though Alabama was a very tough opponent. But the road to get to the title game, Marcus Freeman certainly has had a tougher road, and he is passed the test with flying colors.
So we're both going with Ohio State to win tonight to advance on to the title game?
I'm going to Ohio State. You can go with Texas. Didn't you go Penn State yesterday?
51-49. Yeah. So doesn't
yes.
really
Yeah, you went Penn State.
It doesn't count as being wrong if I was that close, right?
the ball can hit every part of the rim, can
Uh-huh.
roll 82 times around the rim. But the ball comes out of the rim and doesn't go through the net, it doesn't count for 2 points or 3 points, Josh.
Penn State led at halftime.
Well, I mean, if you had a halftime lead bet, then you won that one. But if you had Penn State winning, you lost. So if you woke up this morning after placing a bet that Penn State was going to win, you had the money line rolling,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't wake up in the green. I can promise you that.
I did not have a Penn State halftime bet, and I don't have anything to brag about from any predictions last night.
Listen, man, it was a close game. It could have went either
It was.
way. If
Yeah.
you're James Franklin, I mean, do you play for the tie in overtime, or do you go for the win backed up in that situation? I mean, hindsight, looking back at it, you say, hey, they probably should have played more conservative. Probably should have ran the football and kneeled and played for halftime. But I mean, you trust your quarterback. The older quarterback, you trust him to at least try to pick up 30, 40 yards, get into field goal range. But I think I would have really paid attention to the fact that you didn't have any production on the outside all game long. And
No catches by the wide receivers.
like you're expecting to get those yards in the last drive to win the football game. I probably would have been more conservative in that moment. But, I wasn't a believer in Penn State, because I just don't know if James Franklin can win the big game. But he's won some big games to get to this point. And so to be one of the Final Four teams, I mean, I think James Franklin gets a lot of criticism for not being able to win the big game. But, I mean, he's knocking on the door. He's doing a really good job at Penn State. He's a really, really good coach. Really good coach. But the narrative will not stop for James Franklin. Was he 1-15 versus top 10 opponents?
Yeah, it's been a tough go. You have to be in that spot to have that kind of record, especially if we're talking about from a postseason standpoint. The 12-team playoff allowed that opportunity, of course. They could have won the game. They didn't, and the criticism is there, and it will continue with James Franklin. But Penn State's still in a good position. Notre Dame a better one. Marcus Freeman now getting more attention for what he's done as a head coach. I thought going into the fourth quarter, I think that's right, with his interview the in-game interview that they did, where he said, we're not going to panic. We're going to stay aggressive. And you could tell that his team carried the mindset that Marcus Freeman had for his team.
Yeah, man, that team is tough, man. That team is takes on the personality of their former Ohio State linebacker coach. And I remember when Brian Kelly left for LSU and they announced Marcus Freeman as a head coach, he goes into the meeting room and that team erupted in applause. They were supportive. I mean, they were thrilled that Marcus Freeman was promoted to head coach, and it shows. It shows. They play for their head coach. They play for the coaching staff. And how about Al Golden, who takes the Miami job? He fails there, but as a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, man, he's been lights out. Maybe he gets another opportunity to be a head coach, but he's been phenomenal for Marcus Freeman, a young coach, having really good pieces around them. Man, it's no coincidence, man. Look at the coaching staffs in the college football playoff. You have former head coaches, big-time defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. Penn State, you look at Notre Dame, what they have on the offense. Al Golden, former head coach, defensive coordinator. It's no coincidence. You got to have good players, but you better have a good staff too. And Ohio State has it. Texas definitely has it. Notre Dame has it, and that's why they're playing in the national championship game here in a couple days.
Yep, big boy staffs, big boy rosters. Notre Dame on to the championship game to take on the winner of Ohio State, Texas. We actually have some numbers, some stats to go along with maybe why these teams have been in the position they have been in the semifinal round and now on to the championship game. We'll get to that this afternoon. Mike Keith talking about what he sees at Tennessee throughout the athletic department, the university, the goals that are in place in Knoxville, as Mike Keith was announced yesterday as the future voice of the Vols. He was a guest on Sports Talk this morning. We'll check in with Barrett Sallee, who was covering last night's game. We'll see what he thinks about tonight's game, the other semifinal matchup between the Longhorns and the Buckeyes, and we want to hear from you. Call or text at 865-656-9900 if you're in the Knoxville, East Tennessee area, anywhere where weather is affecting driving conditions. Got James texting us And we'll try to provide updates if there's news to pass along. But he said there was an accident on Sutherland Avenue at the First Creek Greenway. The eastbound lane has been blocked, just happened. So, James, appreciate you sharing that with us. Uh, be aware as you're moving around this afternoon. Wherever you are listening, tuning in, you can watch as well. If you're hanging out in the house, stuck in the house, pull up YouTube. You can watch with us on the 99.1 Sports Animal YouTube channel today. VFL and former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain is here. I'm Josh Ward, 865 656 9900 to join this afternoon on Josh and Swain. With us, we're on social media at Josh and Swain. You can follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. You can connect by calling or texting at 865-656-9900. Swain is here, VFL, former Tennessee wide receiver. In 10 minutes, we'll check in with Barrett Salee to see what he thought about how last night's game played out. What about Notre Dame in a championship game against either Ohio State or Texas, and who Barrett thinks will be in that game? We'll talk to Barrett coming up here in about 10 minutes. 865-656-9900 to connect. I saw this from Dave Bartu, friend of the program, CFB Matrix. He tracks staffs, recruiting, a lot of analytical data as well. And this was from the summertime, about a month before the season kicked off. And he said, here are the top 10 recruiters with 3.5-star or better at offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, and top 25 in total scoring efficiency in 2023. Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, Oregon, Notre Dame.
It's not a secret, Josh Ward. It's not a secret, and there are no shortcuts. So you got to have good players. You got to have good coaches. You got to have a good support staff. You got to have alignment above the head coach. And so you have all those things. And if you have some of them, you can get only so far, but you have to have all of those things. There are no shortcuts.
He shared this data, by the way, when he was asked how many teams have a realistic chance of winning the national championship this year. He said, these are the teams that I would say can realistically do it. And those are the teams that by the end of the season had what I would call a realistic shot.
He's right. That's why he's the best in the business at what he does. I mean, goodness gracious, he nailed that one. So,
yep.
Ohio State's right there. Notre Dame's already in that game, waiting on who wins between Ohio State and Texas. But I mean, you have to have all those recipes. All those ingredients to the recipe if you want to, play for a championship and win one.
By the way, that day, so this was back in July 24th. Dave was asked to follow up, what about Tennessee and Nico? And Dave's response was maybe 2025 or 2026. Again, in a realistic scenario to win the national title. He said maybe 2025, 2026. And, of course, there's some updated information. As of now, the staff is the same from 24 to 25. The roster is in some ways to be determined. We'll see how the rest of the portal plays out, who Tennessee might be able to add. But for the most part, the roster's in place. I'd be curious to see some updated information. We can check in with Dave at some point this offseason.
Yeah.
Long way to go. But his opinion in July was that realistic to win the national championship, not just get to the playoff, which Tennessee obviously did, but win it all. He said maybe 2025, which would be this upcoming season, or 26.
Yeah, I mean, 26 would mean that Nico is a senior. And so I don't think anyone imagine Nico being here for 4 years, but he could be. You just never know what might happen, and that's okay. I mean, doesn't mean that you're not good just because you don't leave after 3 years. I mean, you have to go when the opportunity is the best for you, and while you play college football, you're going to be you're going to be compensated very, very well. So, we've seen the Michael Penix, the guys stay for extended period of time, and it pay off, benefit them. They go into the pro game and they're ready to go. Look at Bo Nix this year. So 26 probably seems more realistic when you look at the youth that's on this football team that I think will be kind of forced in some key spots to play. But you never know, man. This team can make a run this next season.
I'll also say it's good that Dave didn't just reply no. So he went as close as you can, looking to 2025 and 2026, if he didn't have Tennessee on his 2024 national title contender list.
Yeah, but
so he didn't respond no.
Yeah, you got to have experience. You got to have talent. You got to have depth. You got to have quarterback play. I mean, people understand the ingredients you need to have, and I mean, Tennessee has some of those right now. Some of those are missing, but you have some time to kind of figure out what you need to do and do those things.
We'll continue the conversation. We know one team that's in the national championship game. That's Notre Dame. Will Notre Dame play Ohio State or Texas? We'll find that out tonight. We'll come back. We'll check in with Barrett Salee, who I think he might be stuck in the Fort Lauderdale airport travel is not the easiest today around the country, especially in the Southeast. Well, lots of parts. We'll talk to Barrett when we come back to see what he thinks about tonight's game, what he took out of seeing Notre Dame. Is that a team that can get it done and win the national championship in the next round? We'll discuss that in our next segment. 865-656-9900 to connect. Text box remains open all afternoon long on this FanDuel Football Friday, getting ready for the upcoming weekend. We come back right here on Josh and Swain. Welcome back into Josh and Swain. Thank you for being with us on this Friday afternoon, getting ready for a big sports weekend. Playoff action continues. One game last night as Notre Dame knocked off Penn State. We get another college football playoff game tonight. NFL action this weekend. News from the NFL, Jalen Hurts clearing concussion protocol officially and will start against the Packers on Sunday. Nick Sirianni announced that just a few minutes ago. So NFL playoff action will continue. Texas and Ohio State tonight playing in the Cotton Bowl, and last night in the Orange Bowl, Notre Dame knocked off Penn State. Covering it there was Barrett Salee, who joins us now in the Stanley Fencing and Gates hotline with college football smothered and covered. Barrett, appreciate the time as always. You're in a busy place, I think, at the airport in Fort Lauderdale. What was the environment last night like? What did you think about the way Notre Dame came back and played the way it did in the second half to win the game?
I'm thinking about Golden being the former coach of Miami, now as defense coordinator in Notre Dame. How big of an impact he's had on Marcus Freeman?
Barrett is with us, college football smothered and covered, covering last night Notre Dame beating Penn State. So, did you feel like you were watching a different Notre Dame team than the one we've talked about in previous playoff or postseason appearances, where they didn't look like they were up to that level? A lot of people will probably think of the Bama Notre Dame game. Did you feel like you were watching a different level Notre Dame than what we've seen in these recent games? So, Barrett, the next game is Ohio State, Texas. Ohio State's the favorite going in. It's looked like the best team in the playoffs so far. Will Ohio State be Notre Dame's opponent in the championship game? Barrett Salee, college football smothered and covered. You're traveling right now. What can people check out with all of your coverage with what happened last night and what's going on in the college football playoff? Barrett Salee, we wish you the best with travel and everything else going on, and look forward to your coverage. Glad you were able to be there last night for Notre Dame Penn State. That was a good one. Great playoff game. Thanks so much for the time. We'll talk to you again soon. Barrett Salee joining us as all guests do on the Stanley Fencing and Gates Hotline alongside Jason Swain, VFL, former Tennessee wide receiver. I'm Josh Ward. You can be a part of the show. The text box is open 865-656-9900 if you would like to join us as Notre Dame is on to the championship game with a chance to get a title. Marcus Freeman, if they go up against Ohio State, by the way, he will be going up against his former school. He was a standout linebacker at Ohio State. I think was maybe two-time All Big Ten. Was a really good player there under Jim Tressel and spent a little bit of time in the NFL. And now we'll try to bring a title for Notre Dame against his school potentially. You know, Ohio State has to beat Texas, but if it's the Buckeyes and the Irish, it'll be a ratings bonanza. ESPN will love that. Either way, you're getting big brands because Texas is huge too. But Ohio State is the top team going in, but Notre Dame appears unafraid.
Yeah, I mean, with Notre Dame winning, we are potentially avoiding a Big Ten versus Big Ten championship matchup.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, Ohio State played Notre Dame once before, and leading up to that game, there were some comments that Marcus Freeman made that got twisted and turned around when speaking about the academics at Ohio State versus the academics at Notre Dame. When he tried to make a joke about his playing days there at Ohio State, and it got turned to a whole different thing, and they use it as motivation. So there's some storylines there for sure, outside of the fact that Marcus Freeman just played at Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State won last year 17-14 at Notre Dame. So it was a close game, and
Yeah.
Notre Dame said, hey, bring it on. If it's Ohio State, that means we get to go through the best, because I agree with them. I think Ohio State's the best team. We'll see if they prove that. They've got to win tonight to get there. Ohio State favored going into tonight's game, 7:30 kickoff on ESPN. Tennessee plays at Texas. In basketball tomorrow, we'll talk about that this afternoon. 865-656-9900 to be a part of the show. Text box is open. You can chat with us on YouTube as well. We continue this afternoon until 3 o'clock, getting ready for a huge sports weekend. We'll do that right here on Josh and Swain. Welcome back into Josh and Swain. Thank you for being with us today in our final segment of hour number one. We will continue the conversation. Text box is open. A few messages coming in that we'll get to in just a moment. 865-656-9900. Swain, that was fast. In hour number three of yesterday's show, news came out that Carson Beck, instead of entering the NFL draft, was planning to enter the NCAA transfer portal. Then word, I think after our show signed off, came out that he was in the portal with a do not contact tag, meaning that if he wanted to have contact with the school, he would start that conversation. And now word has come from both ESPN and On3 that Carson Beck has signed with Miami. So it is done, according to multiple reports. Carson Beck will play his final season of college football at the University of Miami next season.
Yeah, a couple things stand out, Josh. We're not even trying to hide the fact that tampering is going on now. Like, who cares anymore? Like, don't even try to hide it anymore. It's kind of like what happened with NIL. I mean, there was a time where people tried to hide the fact they were paying players, and now it's just out in the open. Well, you tried to hide the fact that you were tampering, not anymore. I mean, you have a player that hits the portal, immediately has a do not contact, and then the next day he is signing with Florida. Signing with Miami. Like, that is as obvious as it can get. Also, he's stepping into a really good situation. I mean, Miami is desperate. They have the resources to continue to bring in, players. No reason why Miami should say, you know what, man, we spent all this money on Cam Ward. It didn't work out. It wasn't because of Cam Ward of why you didn't get to the college football playoff. So you go do it again. You go out. You spend that same money, if not more, and you go get a guy that's on the same level as Cam Ward, and they found that with Carson Beck.
They were obviously disappointed to miss the college football playoff. They went 10-2, lost that regular season finale against Syracuse, kept them out of the ACC title game, and then again the playoff. But they were knocking on the door, and they're going to knock on the door again next season. They'll be a playoff contender again with Carson Beck coming in. So let's see if they can break through. And they've made a change at defensive coordinator, so let's see if the defense can be better, more consistent, because they had talent on that side of the ball as well. But Mario Cristobal has them in the game, and NIL is a part of them being in the game. They've got it. They're spinning it on Carson Beck, so that's big news. That's the biggest offseason move, right? Carson Beck from Georgia to Miami instead of Carson Beck going to the NFL.
I think if you're a Miami football fan, like you should feel good about where you are right now. I know you're disappointed, upset that you didn't make the college football playoff, and there's some criticism that Mario Cristobal should own in terms of his in-game coaching, the talent that he's had, and still not be able to have more success. But they're making moves to get there. If you are a fan of Miami football, they said, "No, we're going to fire the defense coordinator. Like, we're not going to settle. Yes, we're close. We're not happy with being close. We're going to kick the door all the way in and step through." So, yeah, like going out and getting Carson Beck, firing the defensive coordinator because it wasn't good enough. They blew some leads, gave up a ton of points. Like, they're trying. So if you are a Kane fan, you should feel pretty good.
Yeah, they're not saying, 10-2, we were good enough. We just had some bad breaks. We'll run it back. They're trying to figure out how to be better. We'll see if they will be. I think they'll be good next year. I think more highly of Carson Beck than I think a lot of the conversation in the middle of the season. When he was making mistakes, he was turning it over. He wasn't getting a lot of help at times. They dealt with drops. But when they needed plays to be made, he was still able to make those at times. Tennessee dealt with that. He had a really good game against Tennessee. He can make the throws. He can make throws as well as just about anybody in college football. We got a text as we were talking about looking ahead to the next couple of seasons. Steve texted in and said, "You'll have to go through Arch Manning the next 2 years to win a national championship." Arch Manning set to take over next season for Texas, which will play tonight with Quinn Ewers still as the starting quarterback.
I mean, Arch will be good, but will he be better than Quinn Ewers? And if so, by how much? I mean, Texas is in the position that they're in, not because of their offense entirely. Their defense is better than their offense. Their defense is farther ahead. When they lose players to the NFL, will that defense be as good as they were this year? So, I mean, they'll be a good team, but will they be significantly better with Arch Manning as a quarterback? I don't know that because Quinn Ewers is pretty dang good.
Right. If I had to bet, I would bet on Arch doing really well.
Yeah,
but
but
he also has to go prove it too.
well, why is Arch not the starting quarterback this year? Why is that? Because Quinn Ewers is better.
I would think so. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, now if Quinn Ewers comes back, you can't play Quinn Ewers anymore. Like it's time to go with Arch Manning because this is, it's pretty close.
Right.
I don't think it's equal because if it's equal, maybe Arch Manning is playing this year. But like, you can't have Arch in his third year backing up Quinn Ewers if he decides to come back. But like, if Arch was that much better than Quinn Ewers this year, I think he would have been playing more games over Quinn. How I look at it.
It's not the same. Is it Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, where the Chargers they had Phillip Rivers, they were going to move on to him. Drew Brees had to move on. Again, I know it's not the same, but we
Yeah,
don't see this too often in college.
yeah, like both are very, very talented, and
Yeah.
it wasn't a huge drop off one versus number two this year for Texas. Like they had the best quarterback room in the country, but number one was number one for a reason. Quinn Ewers next year with Arch Manning taking over. All right, how good will the team be? The offense can be the same, if not better, but like how good will that team be? Because Arch doesn't play defense. Last time I checked.
So the news this hour after yesterday, we learned Carson Beck actually might stay in college. Looked like he was going to enter the transfer portal. He did that, and according to reports from ESPN and On3, Carson Beck has signed with Miami, so he will finish his college eligibility with the Hurricanes. That is something to consider now for quarterbacks. If you're not high enough, if you're not sure where you're going to go as high as you want to go, you can come back to college, make a ton of money, probably more if you're a high level quarterback than you would at the next level. That's something for Quinn Ewers. Speaking of, to decide next. First up, though, he has a game tonight against Ohio State, the semifinal matchup between Ohio State and Texas. We'll talk more about that coming up. We'll talk about Texas and Tennessee in basketball as the Vols will be in Austin tomorrow with a huge game. Tennessee looking to go 1-1 this week after falling against Florida. We'll talk about that coming up with 2 hours to go on Josh and Swain. Into Josh and Swain. Thanks for being with us this afternoon. We have 1 hour down. We have 2 to go. Hope everybody's staying warm, staying safe on this wintry weather Friday afternoon. Jason Swain is along with us, 865-656-9900 for you to join us. We'll continue to monitor the text box as well with the news of the last 20 minutes. Carson Beck signing with Miami. So he will transfer from Georgia to Miami. I think there was some word yesterday that he might either take his time or listen to others. Maybe he did. Maybe he reached out to a few others and then quickly decided, nope, I'm going to Miami. That was the initial favorite, and that is the landing spot for Carson Beck.
Oh, he listened to somebody. He took orders from somebody, that's for sure.
So his girlfriend is Hannah Cavender, who is a basketball player well known in the social media world, went back to Miami for another season after sitting out last year. So the Cavender twins are playing their final season there at Miami, and Carson Beck will do the same in 2025.
It was funny when Carson Beck was going through his slump during the season, turning the football over, Georgia fans were blaming her that he was not focused enough, that they were spending too much time together and he wasn't locked in on his responsibilities. And so it's funny now that the season's over, he hit the portal, and now he's at Miami. But I appreciate Carson Beck. If you're going to transfer, don't transfer to another SEC program. Go to Miami. We don't have to deal with him anymore.
Yeah, like we wondered for a moment, hey, would Alabama try to get in the mix there? You don't want to see Carson Beck at Alabama, right?
Alabama, what they're going to do intrigues me.
Same here.
Yeah, man. I'm watching them trying to figure out what they're going to do because I don't know offensively if they would have been better with Ty Simpson or not, just as a pure passer. Milroe brought a different dimension with his legs, and he did a really good job of leading that team last year. But they can't have the same performance at quarterback and expect to win this upcoming season. Do they go with Ty Simpson? Do they go outside the building and bring in a transfer quarterback and do what Miami has done? And that is basically go tamper with a player. And I remember Greg Burns' comments not too long ago, the AD of Alabama. And so I think Alabama is in a position that they either tamper or they go with who they have in the building.
I'm confident that Alabama, as a school athletic department fan base, they're not going to be comfortable just saying, well, let's just see how it goes. And if we don't have a good year in 2025, then we'll figure it out after that. They want to get back to the playoff immediately. And I think all these things are true. I think Kalen DeBoer's a really good coach. I know they just signed a really good class, at least in how it's ranked and the talent that's part of it. And I think they've got enough resources where they can be successful. I also know that is a fan base that is going to have zero patience to succeed. So whatever's going to happen needs to happen quickly if they're going to win.
Well, I mean, Josh, it's kind of like, you living in Farragut, right? I mean, you're used to, 6-course meals and limo service. There's a certain way of life in Farragut for you, right? And so, when you move or go to a different part of town, man, you don't feel right, man. You just don't feel like the same person because you're used to, first-class service. And it's no different than Alabama fans right now. They've had Nick Saban. They've been spoiled. And even though Kalen DeBoer took his team at Washington to a national championship game, and he's done a great job, he's a great coach, all they know is that they slipped, and they haven't lost 4 games in the regular season and in postseason in a very, very long time. And so they're not used to this position. They want to get back to what they know, and that is compete for championships and winning them.
Swain, don't take it out on me or anybody else you know from Farragut that when you happen across the town line that you find that the air's a little fresher, water's a little cleaner. I didn't do that.
Yeah, I heard it was like 80 degrees over there right now, and it's not snowing. So you might be right.
Yeah, it's beach season out here.
Yeah.
Come on out.
Yep.
I've been trying to recruit the Swains.
Well, I'm not coming, man. I'm not coming. I'm good where I am.
NIL offer hasn't been good enough yet.
Ain't been good enough, man. Not yet.
865-656-9900 to be a part of the show. Thanks for hanging out with us. We have Tommy Sweat producing for us today. And earlier today, Mike Keith was a part of Sports Talk. He's been a part of Sports Talk in years past, and he's continued as a guest talking about the Tennessee Titans. Well, today he was a guest talking about taking over as the voice of the Vols. That big news yesterday. So Mike joined Sports Talk earlier today, talked to John and Vince, and you can find that entire conversation in their podcast feed. One thing that stood out was Mike talking about going through the process of deciding, is this the move that he's going to make? Is this going to be the final chapter of his broadcasting career with everything that he's accomplished, coming back to his alma mater? Listen to what Mike Keith said earlier today, talking about what he found out, talking to the people at the University of Tennessee, seeing the vision, seeing what the people at UT want to accomplish in so many different areas. This was Mike Keith earlier today on Sports Talk.
These people know what they're doing. They know what they want. What jumps out to me is Tennessee wants to win in everything. In everything. They want to win in sports. They want to win in broadcasting. They want to win in social media. They want to win as a university. I mean, the whole thing is, this is what we want to do. They're not playing. And I like that. Man, that appeals. I want to be on that kind of team. You know, that's the sort of thing from corporate's not the right word, but from a company, just take out the sports, but from a company standpoint, that's what I want to be a part of. And they laid out that vision for me and how I could fit in and just be a part of that team. And I liked it. And I said, at the end of the day, it was like, I want to do this. I just really want to go do this. And at a certain point in your life, I think you just have to say, well, let's go. I mean, I don't want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I don't want to jump out of an airplane. I don't want to write a hit record, or, you know, people have all of these goals. But when I heard this and I talked to them and I dealt with them, and it just was like, I want to do this. I want to be part of this. And John knows better than you, Vince, because John and I go back a long, long ways. But these are my people. these are 100% my people. And to be a part of Tennessee fans again, and to get a chance to be at the games and be part of it. You know, you don't think about those. You think, well, you're going to broadcast. Well, I get to go to the game. Wow. I mean, I'm gonna be in Atlanta. I think I'm gonna be in Atlanta on August 30th. So I'm pumped. I mean, I just like the whole thing.
Mike Keith earlier today on Sports Talk.
Man, that fires you up, because before joining the Sports Animal, I heard stories about Mike Keith's time doing radio here and the drive that he would have and still has, and the competitive nature that he possesses, and how he wanted to be the best and do the best. And he demanded that from people around him. And you listen to his comments talking about the University of Tennessee and their drive to be the best in everything. Like that ain't just talk. Like I remember throwing a comment to Danny White going, man, that social media team, well, we serious, Danny. And he was like, listen, I'm gonna hire the best, and I'm gonna pay him. I'm gonna take care of him, because that stuff matters. And so if we're gonna do it, we're gonna be the best. That came out of Danny White's mouth when I made a comment to him about the social media team. I think it was when we unveiled the dark mode jerseys, and that video went viral and had millions and millions of hits. That Saturday in the pregame show, just off air, I made a comment about, man, that video, Danny, that was serious right there. He was like, hey, we're gonna be the best. I'm gonna hire the best, and we're gonna be the best, because that stuff matters.
I think it's real. And I think Mike Keith is backing that up. Doesn't mean they're going to win every single championship, but their plan is to go compete for every single one. And their plan is to be considered the best, or show that they're putting the work in to be considered the best in whatever they're doing, whatever you see. What you don't see behind the scenes I think that's very real at the University of Tennessee, and Mike Keith backed that up with what he said earlier today.
Well, I made a comment earlier about Miami football fans and why they should feel encouraged because you're seeing that program go after it. They got rid of a defense coordinator that wasn't good enough, and they went out and got Carson Beck, a first-round quarterback talent to come in to make another run at the college football playoff. Well, if you are a Tennessee fan and you see Tennessee go out and get Mike Keith, and you see Tennessee putting in the resources, be the best of the best that they can be in every sport, as a fan, that makes you want to engage more. Like, you don't mind paying those prices. You don't mind investing your emotions because you know that you have something in common with the people who are in charge, and that is you want to win a championship and you're going to chase it.
Yeah, Brent Hubb's article that he wrote at VolQuest has a long-time friendship now with Mike Keith, but he wrote about working for Mike in the mid-'90s and how demanding Mike was and how much Mike expected of Brent and everybody and what they were doing, but also the high character and the personality and everything, because it was about being the best, but treating the listeners right, the audience right. That is a big part of it. I told you yesterday, Mike sent me a note about 15 years ago, and it had a couple of words of encouragement and just suggestions, advice. And one of it was never let up for the audience. Never let up, in this case, for the Tennessee fan base.
Yep.
And I can promise Mike Keith's not going to let up.
Yeah, like the fan base deserves your very best, our very best. When we are broadcasting, they deserve transparency to a certain extent. They deserve to be communicated in a way that they're not feeling like they're beneath the show host. So many times show hosts can be condescending. That's not how you're supposed to do it. And so Mike Keith, he has the fan, the listener in mind. That's why he brings it the way he brings it. Just from my point of view. Again, I haven't met him yet. I might meet him and he might say, "Dude, what are you talking about?" But the way I interpret his style, like, he is doing it for the fans. He has a respect for the fans. And that's what it's about. If you put the fan first in this business, like, you're going to win. Like, you are going to win. The moment it's about you and you think people are showing up to see you, even though they may be, or listen to you, even though they may be, it affects how you it affects your delivery. And so you're going to hear, because I've heard just clips here and there, the enthusiasm, man, that's contagious. That is contagious. That rubs off on everyone around you.
Yep. You will continue to see that and hear that throughout the Vol Network. Tennessee baseball is at the top right now, right? John Wilkerson's bringing that on the microphone with baseball.
Yep.
Swain, a few years ago, Tennessee baseball was not at the top, but John was bringing that every single day. So now it's linked up, and I think you'll see that linked up as Bob Kessling continues his run with Tennessee basketball. Mike is going to be preparing for Tennessee basketball next season. He's been calling football, be preparing for basketball on the Tennessee side. Bob and Bert and Steve Hamer continue on the basketball run with a big game coming up this weekend at Texas. We'll get to that coming up. But I thought it was a great conversation, great message that Mike Keith shared earlier today. Appreciate him hopping on Sports Talk this morning. Go check out the full interview in their podcast feed. We'll come back and invite you to be a part of the show, 865-656-9900. Chase confirming what you said earlier in the segment. Swain through the text box said Swain is right. I passed by Josh's house, and his butler is outside salting the driveway.
Facts. And his butler's name is Jeffrey.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he'd be able to get the tarp up as I asked him to do, but sounds like he did. That's great.
100%. 100%. That's a lot of work, man. I've been past your house. That's a lot of work you have him doing, Josh. I hope you're paying him well.
I'm going to keep recruiting Swain out west. We'll come back and invite you to be a part of the show, 865-656-9900 to join us. Tennessee at Texas tomorrow. Big one in Austin. We'll talk about it coming up on Josh and Swain. Josh and Swain, thank you for being with us this afternoon. VFL, former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain is here. I'm Josh Ward, 865-656-9900 to join us as we get ready for a big weekend. Huge football weekend. Another college football playoff game tonight, 7:30 kickoff between Texas and Ohio State playing in Dallas. The NFL playoffs will begin tomorrow, 4:30. Chargers and the Texans, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. The Ravens will host Pittsburgh, then 3 games on Sunday. Denver, Buffalo, Green Bay, Philly, with Jalen Hurts cleared to play for the Eagles. He's missed the last couple of weeks with concussion, but he has gone through protocol. He is good to go according to the Eagles. And then Sunday night, Washington at Tampa. Monday, get the Vikings and the Rams. They're going to play in Arizona because of the fires and what's been going on in L.A. So big football weekend. Swain, tomorrow, 6 o'clock tip-off. They're playing in Austin. Rick Barnes goes back to Austin again. And Tennessee and Texas will play one that both sides need. Tennessee's in a better position than Texas. The Vols are coming off a 30-point loss at Florida. Texas is 0-2 in SEC play. They lost to 2 good teams, Texas A&M and then Auburn. But the Longhorns don't want to go 0-3. Tennessee does not want to go 0-2 this week. Huge game for both teams.
Well, Tennessee's a better team. Both teams are desperate. Both teams need to win for kind of the same reasons. You want to break a losing streak. One team's playing at home, and so it's very hard to win on the road in the SEC. But Tennessee is a team that's built to be able to do that. They've done it so far this season. Last game wasn't successful, but there's a lot of experience on this basketball team. May not be a lot of guys who played at Tennessee who play in the SEC, like Zakai Ziegler and Gainey and Meshack, but there are a lot of guys that play a lot of basketball and played in some pretty hostile environments. So I think this matchup favors Tennessee. Now it's about going out and putting the ball in the basket and making shots and not having another cold night like you had at Florida.
We were talking yesterday a little bit about Rodney Terry. This is a big spot for him. If they have a disappointing season, there'll be pressure there in Austin. That's just the way it goes with big jobs. His history working for Rick Barnes following there. It won't surprise you to find out that Texas, so far this season, really good on defense. They haven't been as good offensively, but Tennessee going into this game has the nation's number 3 defense. Texas has the nation's number 4 defense. It's kind of strengths versus strengths, weaknesses versus weaknesses in this battle.
I mean, Texas has been good defensively the last couple of years. Like the 2 times, actually 3 times we've played Texas. First time Rick Barnes went back there as a coach. I mean, they're really good defensively there too. And then we played Texas at home, a game that you and I went to. I mean, Texas was good defensively there too. I mean, Rick Barnes' footprint still is recognized with Texas basketball because you look at Rodney Terry and he is Rick Barnes' disciple. Like Rick Barnes' fingerprints are still on this program. So they're tough. They play tough defense. And there were times when Texas would have droughts where they couldn't score baskets. Tennessee was able to have less droughts and was able to win. We had a great performance from Olivier Camois in that game here. And then in the tournament, that was a tough defensive battle as well, too. They didn't have Don Connect, and we did.
So it's more than one player, but where do you start the conversation when you talk about who steps up, who bounces back for Tennessee after what happened Tuesday?
I mean, I think Jamal Meshack just needs to be better offensively. Like, he needs to have a bigger presence. No one's questioned defensively his impact. No one's questioned the intangibles he brings to the court, but he needs to be feared a little bit defensively. You can't have his defender sagging off and playing passing lanes because they don't fear him shooting the basketball. And so he needs to shoot with confidence. He needs to make baskets. And so when you have a performance like you had against Florida, you can point to a lot of guys that need to play better from the previous game. And I'm not looking at Jamal Meshack like, oh, man, he played terrible. Because I think, again, everyone has to play better. But my biggest takeaway from that game outside of the front court performance is the fact that Jamal Meshack offensively, although he has made shots during the summer and become a better shooter during the summer, from the reports, it needs to translate to the game and on the court, making shots from the perimeter. He needs to play with more confidence. He needs to shoot the ball with more confidence.
Rick Barnes said after the loss to Florida on Tuesday night, he thought coming out of that game the effort was there.
It was
He
always there.
pointed, he pointed to the defense actually doing okay. They held Florida under 40% shooting, 30% from three. Barnes meeting with the media yesterday said the tape backed up what he felt, that the effort was still there.
Yeah, I mean, you watch that game. We have eyeballs. You saw Tennessee players diving on the court. You saw Tennessee players playing hard. So here's a challenge for us sports fans in 2025. When your team doesn't win, try not to easily go for, oh, we didn't play hard enough. You can play hard enough and still lose if you don't execute. Let's try to do more of that as a sports fan in 2025. Effort was not a problem in Florida. What was a problem is execution and not making open shots. That's simple.
Yeah, if Chaz goes, 1 of 9 from three again tomorrow, probably going to be tough to win. If he hits at a rate similar to what we've seen from him or we know he's capable of, we have a much better chance to win because the defense will still be there. Good chance it's a lower scoring battle in this game.
Well, Josh, team. This is a team sport, which
Right.
means when one person is not carrying their load, you need the other person to carry their own individual load and help the other person who's not carrying their load. Basketball, football, baseball, it's unlike tennis, the golf, individual sport. If you stink that day, you are losing that day. But in basketball and in football, if you don't have a good game, you need one of your teammates to step up. And so if Chaz is having a bad shooting night, that puts more pressure on Jordan Gainey, which we saw him step up
Illinois.
on the road to Illinois. Like, he stepped up. That was the reason why I think Tennessee was able to win that game. The difference is at Florida, when Chaz struggled, nobody else stepped up. No one else had a better shooting performance. And that's why you got beat the way you got beat. So if Chaz has another shooting performance like we saw against Florida, which I doubt we see against Texas, well, Zakat Ziegler needs to make shots. Jamal Meshack needs to make shots. Jordan Gainey needs to make shots.
Big bounce back opportunity. 6 o'clock tip off tomorrow. Tennessee on the road against Texas. We'll have Vol Network coverage at 5:30 tomorrow afternoon into the evening. We'll continue the conversation. 865-65 would like to be a part of it. Next to VFL, former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain. I'm Josh Ward. We'll open up the text box when we return as well, getting you ready for a huge sports weekend right here on Josh and Swain. Welcome back into Josh and Swain. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. A FanDuel Football Friday, a semifinal playoff game coming up tonight. Texas and Ohio State will play on ESPN. We talked last segment about Tennessee and Texas in basketball tomorrow. Big game for the Vols coming up. We invite you to be a part of the show, 865-656-9900. It was brought up to us by @Vol. We've talked about the wide receiver position a lot for Tennessee here in the last couple weeks, last few months, Swain. Last night for Penn State, the wide receivers did not produce a catch. Now, Tyler Warren at tight end, very good player. He's like a receiver out there, but the wide receivers did not produce a catch for Penn State last night.
I remember when James Franklin had Josh Gaddis at Vanderbilt. This is when I think they had Earl. Was it Earl Bennett? Or was it another receiver? Was Earl Bennett
Jordan Matthews?
Jordan Matthews. Earl Bennett was a receiver for Jake Cutler. But Matthews, who was a North Alabama kid, went to Vanderbilt and showed out. Well, Josh Gaddis was the receiver coach there. And I remember Josh Gaddis and I had a little conversation on social media. And I respected how he had those receivers ready to play. Josh Gaddis, because of his success with James Franklin, went on to be the offensive coordinator in some places. I think he worked at Alabama as a receiver coach as well, too. But there's no excuse for a team playing in the semifinals of a college football playoff to go out and have 0 catches from your receiver group, 0 yards, 0 touchdowns. Like, I'm telling you, man, as a receiver guy, that's disappointing. That is very disappointing. That room should be embarrassed. That room should be embarrassed.
And Notre Dame's really good defensively. We recognize that. But it shouldn't be that good defensively, right?
No, Josh. Like a 5-yard hitch, a screen pass. I mean, some of that could be blamed on play calling. Do something to get the receivers going, something.
Right.
Like, this should never be a game where the receivers don't register a catch. Like, that makes no sense to me.
The conversation around quarterbacks this season in college has been interesting because part of it goes with what kind of help they're getting. We've had that conversation in Knoxville. Nico is sometimes affected by not getting help, sometimes protection, but playmaking. I think Drew Aller's a good player at quarterback. I don't know if he's first-round NFL. Sometimes he looks like that. Last night he didn't. Carson Beck, sometimes he's looked like that. A lot of this season he is not. But I know that last night, aside from Tyler Warren, there was not a lot of confidence in who Drew Aller was going to throw to either.
That's a lot of pressure to put on the quarterback. And, Drew Aller threw the interception, ended the game, and, he has to live with that. At the end of the day, he's responsible for the football because he's the quarterback. But that's unfair. That is unfair for a quarterback to have to go and try to win a football game without the receivers getting open, without the play calling being able to include the receivers on the outside. That's difficult. I don't care if you have the best tight end in the country or not, which they do. He won the Mackey Award. You still got to have playmakers on the outside. You still have to be able to push safeties back. It's still hard to drive the length of the football field, 10, 12, 14-play drives. You still need chunk plays. Like, you still need to hold the defense at bay and keep the defense honest with threat of throwing the ball deep and having success. It's weird stuff. Who's the receiver coach with Penn State? Who's the receiver coach? I got to find this out.
The running games were impressive. Leonard's not afraid to put his shoulder down for Notre Dame at quarterback. Love ran through so many tackles to get in the end zone. Jeremiah Love, he can hit the home run, but, man, he was tough at the goal line. And Singleton for Penn State. There's not a big passing attack last night. Great second half. First half was kind of a tough watch at times. Second half was the complete opposite.
Oh, man, that hurts me. Because Marcus Hagans is the receiver coach at Penn State. Second year there, he was a really good player at Virginia. I remember him. Oh, man, played in the league for a couple of years. That hurts, man. He probably couldn't sleep last night. That hurts.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that hurts. Mm. Yeah, but hey, man, what a great season it was though for Penn State. I mean, they may be able to build on what they had. They're losing a really good player on defense, but they do have their stud quarterback, Drew Allen, coming back next year.
Also, Notre Dame, I mean, they're not 100%. Love's been battling through to be able to go out there. Riley Leonard gets knocked out late in the first half. He comes back in the second half.
That run?
At the goal line?
Oh. I mean, if you just put determination and just put the video of him scoring a touchdown, that's all you need. That he would not be denied.
Yeah, Jeremiah Love on that run at the goal line where he just needed a couple of yards. He looked like a video game player where you made his strength and those attributes unfair to where the video game defense just wasn't going to be capable of taking him down. Love was not going to be stopped getting to the end zone.
That was a video game run right there.
Yeah.
Like, if you are the strength coach for Penn State, you're like, what? Why did we do all those weights? Like, all those weights we lifted all those weights, so the offense can't do that. Like, we got to be able to bring the opposing player down with at least two people. Like, one-on-one is difficult, but we have more than two people there to make that tackle. But, hey, man, he wanted it more.
So, Notre Dame is on to the national championship game, awaiting the winner of Ohio State and Texas tonight. 7:30 kickoff on the ESPN.
Seeding matters. No one thought Notre Dame would be in this position outside of probably Notre Dame fans. They will never join a conference. There's no point. Who cares about getting a first round bye? Because, and we're going to see here in 2 weeks in the NFL playoff games, there's going to be some teams that won't play this weekend and wild card weekend, and they're going to come out next week and they're going to be sluggish. And they're not going to look as good as the teams that play this week and wild card weekend. We saw that this year with the college football playoff. Teams that missed that first game or set out that first game because they had a great seed, they came out and they were sluggish. The teams that played the week before them were sharper. So if you are Notre Dame, who cares about not playing? Who cares about being off the first weekend? It's better to play and play at home, which they did against Indiana, than sit out the first week.
You might be right.
Notre Dame, they made some coaches hip to the path to the college football playoff. It may not be getting the first round bye. That might not be as important as people claimed it to be. Playing and playing well is more important than not playing at all. Notre Dame proved that.
Yeah, none of the top 4 seeds won a playoff game. Arizona State came close, but still lost the game. All of the favorites have won so far. Notre Dame was a slight favorite, but a favorite last night. So every favorite has won in the college football playoff. We'll see Ohio State's favored tonight against Texas. And I imagine the winner of that game, for sure, Ohio State. But if Texas won as well, I think the winner tonight will be favored against Notre Dame. We'll see in the championship game. Notre Dame is in a place that a lot of people did not expect, especially after a loss against Northern Illinois. But the Irish are one win away from a title. Ohio State and Texas will play tonight. We'll keep the conversation going, 865-656-9900 to be a part of it as we continue on a cold Friday afternoon. If you're dealing with the winter weather, hope you're staying safe out there, staying warm as best you can. However you're tuning in, we're on the Sports Animal YouTube channel, so you can watch, you can stream live anywhere. And we're with you on 99.1 The Sports Animal, as well as AM 640 The Sports Monster in the Tri-Cities area. And we continue this afternoon on Josh and Swain. Number 2 will be with you for another hour coming up. We'll be here until 3 o'clock on 99.1 The Sports Animal, on AM 640 The Sports Monster in the Tri-Cities area. Next hour, a message from Kim Caldwell after a loss, disappointing loss to LSU last night, but I think one that will inspire Tennessee fans in seeing what's going on with the Lady Vols basketball team here this season and looking ahead. 865-656-9900 to join us. Swain, we can look ahead to, we're in the year 2025, but to the 2025 season. This is disappointing news, I'm sure you'll agree, for the Tennessee Vols, because you want to play teams at their best, I'm sure. Kyle McCord has announced he will enter the NFL draft. He had been looking into a waiver to play one more season at Syracuse. He had a terrific senior season, but in his first year at Ohio State, he played in 5 games. So he was trying to get a waiver to get that red shirt back. He will no longer pursue that. He told ESPN that he will enter the NFL draft. So Tennessee's 2025 opener, Syracuse, in Atlanta on August 30th, will have a new starting quarterback. They will have to replace Kyle McCord. I can sense the disappointment from you hearing that news.
I'm happy for Kyle McCord that, he was once labeled as an outcast. He was cast away by Ohio State. He was deemed the reason why Ohio State couldn't reach their hopes and dreams. He goes to Syracuse. He breaks the ACC single season passing record, and now he's off to NFL. I'm happy for him, Josh. I'm happy for him. It's a great story, Josh. I think we should put him on Attaboy.
Swain, I was right about you. When we started doing the show together, well, we're coming up on 3 years. You know that? In just a few months, it'll be the 3-year mark. I shouldn't speak too soon, right? But
anything change?
I thought, I'm excited to work with Swain. I can tell he's a good guy. I can tell does high character.
Correct.
Thinks about others.
That is 100% fact.
And this would be one of the examples. You wouldn't be thinking, oh man, Tennessee catches a little bit of a break, that Syracuse will be breaking in a new starting quarterback in a season opener and having to replace a guy good enough to declare for the NFL draft. No, you're thinking, well, good for Kyle McCord to be able to live out his dream.
Of course, Josh. I'm a player advocate. I'm for the players, man. I'm on the player side here. Now, there's nothing wrong with killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
It may just so happen that Tennessee can potentially benefit from Kyle McCord's decision to go on to the NFL as well.
How is this any different from playing in this conference year in and year out, going up against quarterbacks like Tua, going up against other great quarterbacks, and that quarterback decides to leave or they graduate? That is a relief. No different than going up against Todd Gurley or Richardson over there at Alabama, or how about Derrick Henry? Opponents should be happy that the young man is going to the NFL or he is going to graduate. So that way you don't have to play against him anymore. What's wrong with that?
There is nothing wrong with it. This will still be a team that I think Tennessee has to take seriously. Why wouldn't they, of course, in an opener? But you can easily say, oh, Syracuse, ACC football, who cares about that kind of opponent? Fran Brown will have them ready, but he'll have them ready to go mentally, emotionally, with a new starting quarterback. And Kyle McCord, I think, is a good player. So having to replace him will be a challenge for Syracuse, and Tennessee will see Syracuse August 30th in Atlanta. Some news there in the last 10 minutes. He told ESPN that he's off to the NFL. We are off to hour number 3. We'll come back. Invite you to join us at 865-656-9900 on Josh and Swain. Welcome back into hour number 3 of Josh and Swain. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. We have 1 hour to go on the sports animal side. Tyler and Will take over at 3 o'clock. We continue for another hour on AM 640, The Sports Monster. It is a wintry Friday afternoon, getting ready for a big sports weekend. Hope everybody's staying safe, staying warm as best you can. We invite you to be a part of the show. Call or text at 865-656-9900. Swain, I bust out the Mike Keith mug today. Felt appropriate after his announcement yesterday that he'll return to the University of Tennessee as the voice of the Vols.
Oh, I didn't see it. Let me see it again.
What do you think?
Oh, there
Mike
you go.
Keith, the old Mike Keith Sports Talk mug.
Heck yeah, man. I think it's appropriate. Good timing.
On WIVK AM 990 News Talk is a part of the mug, touting his success. Associated Press Best Sports Talk Show in Tennessee, 1993 through 1996. I've been holding on to this one for a while.
How about that, man? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
is he gonna take our jobs?
Mike?
Yeah, is he coming back to take our jobs?
That's probably up to him. I hope not, but that's his choice, not ours.
All right.
I would have to admit. I mean, he could say, I want to do the show with Swain. And that's sayonara to old Joshua over here.
I hope he would say that.
But he'll be busy with the director of broadcasting and Vol Network duties. So I hope we're okay. But I'm going to keep touting the mug for sure. I've got the John and Jimmy, the old John and Jimmy Sports Talk mug. So I might just put it in a Sports Talk rotation.
You should. We should bring it to the office and bring the red cup or take the red cup back home.
Yeah, you're trying to clean out that rotation.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll invite you to join us, 865-656-9900. There've got to be a few of these still floating around. I think they may have been given out for a long time. I got it when Mike was leaving. So when Mike was leaving Sports Talk to go to the Titans, I know they gave some of these mugs away, and I stopped by, and I'm like, it's like 8th grade Josh stopping by to get a mug from Mike.
How about that, man? You should have got it signed.
Well, I can now. He's back in town.
You can now for sure.
We'll continue to get ready for the weekend as well. Playoff game tonight, Ohio State and Texas. Chip might be right here. Chip texted in and said, Notre Dame looks almost destined to win the national championship just by how they are winning these playoff games. You look at the way they carry themselves. They're talking about how they believe, and sometimes you can roll your eyes at that. Sometimes that's very real, the belief that you can get it done. And Notre Dame absolutely believes they bought in. They have good enough players. That's part of it. When Jeremiah Love's sprinting down the sideline or when he's fighting for those extra 2 yards to get in the end zone, part of that's his physical talent, but it's the will, the determination, and the buy-in, and that has all been there. Now, there's only so much you can believe in trying to slow down Jeremiah Smith if that's the matchup in the national title game. And Ibuka, when he's in motion, there's only so much you can do with him and Travion Henderson out in the open field. But Chip might be right. They do look that way. If Notre Dame wins the national title, we'll probably be saying that about the Irish. Man, they were destined to get to this point. But they're in the title game. They're one win away now.
Man, y'all been watching Rudy too much.
Might need to bust it out.
Just like they're not destined to win a championship. They're destined until they play Ohio State. They've been better than the teams that they've played. They've played better.
Yeah.
It's not like the ball has just magically bounced their way. They were better than Indiana from the opening kickoff. Georgia didn't have their starting quarterback. They outplayed Georgia. Penn State didn't have a receiver catch a pass, gain 8 yards, score a touchdown. And they were better. This ain't Rudy, man. This ain't Rudy. When they play Ohio State, they will lose. Why? Because Ohio State is the best team currently left in college football. They need to have Rudy at the game, though. That would be hilarious if he's at the championship game on the sideline. Whoever played Rudy.
Yeah, so Sean Austin, right? So you either get real Rudy or at least the one that played him in the movie?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, where's your heart, Swain?
It's right here. It didn't go anywhere.
Are you rooting for Notre Dame? Do you care the rest of the way? Either way.
I don't care.
Okay.
Man, I don't care. It's I can watch a game without rooting for a team. It doesn't bother me one bit. I mean, I understand it feels a little bit better knowing the team that beat you was the best team in the country. You go out and win, but like if you see Notre Dame beat Ohio State and Ohio State plays like they played against Michigan, it's not gonna make you feel good as a Tennessee fan, because then you're gonna be like, wait a minute, I think we could have beat Notre Dame.
Right. Yeah, you play these mental games.
Yeah. So it don't
Yeah,
matter.
Chip followed up though and said, "Can't we just have some hope that they can beat Ohio State?"
Well, if you want to be hopeful that Notre Dame beats Ohio State, you can, because I don't care either way.
Mm-hmm.
I just think Ohio State's a better football team, and it doesn't matter to me who wins. Like I don't really care.
Yep.
As
Bruce
long
texted
as an SEC team doesn't win, I'm good.
Yeah, so you don't want Texas to win.
What? No, I don't want to make it harder on Tennessee. Even though, I mean, I don't know how much harder it would be, because you're still competing against everybody now, and everyone has money and everyone's using it. But I don't want to hear the narrative, oh man, Texas came into the SEC first year and won the championship. We already hearing, oh, the SEC's not that good anymore and the Big Ten is better. Like, we're already going to hear that. If we have to hear that Texas came in year one and won a championship, my head is going to explode. I don't want to hear both of them.
I was thinking that too, because from a league standpoint, like in the league office, Greg Sankey, the commissioner, Texas is the last hope for the league. And if Texas wins the title, it is an SEC team winning. But from the outside, all those that like to take shots at the SEC, they're going to look at it and say, well, they're not really an SEC team. They joined up and they had to save you because the real SEC teams couldn't get the job done.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can look at it that way. The SEC.
It's also college football where every take or opinion is going to be spun to try to take a shot at the other side anyway.
Correct. And Ohio State never really operated like an SEC team to me. Since Urban Meyer got there and since Urban Meyer left, because I still think there's some fingerprints of Meyer still in that program. Like, I don't feel like they operate like an SEC team.
Yeah, Ryan Day was his offensive coordinator, replaced Meyer when he stepped down.
Yeah. I mean, so Ryan Day learned a lot what it takes to win at that level, and he's tried to maintain what Urban Meyer has built there at Ohio State, and he has. He's done everything except for beat Michigan consistently and win a national championship. But they have operated like an SEC team. They have out-recruited SEC teams for years. I mean, they have cleaned up house. So it don't really bother me when Ohio State is like SEC, making fun of SEC, because they're really built like an SEC team.
Bruce in the text box notes, it is called Luck of the Irish. You don't talk about Luck of the Longhorns or Luck of the Buckeyes. It's Luck of the Irish.
I don't think Notre Dame got to where they are right now because of luck.
I don't either.
That's why I'm not buying into the whole they're destined to get there. No, they were better. Like, it'd be one thing if they were like underdogs and, you know, they magic kick at the end or the ball just fell in guys' hands. Like, no, they physically beat Georgia. They physically beat Indiana. They beat Penn State. They were just better. They weren't destined. They were just better.
During the regular season when they were playing the Army and Navy and USC games, when there was a lot of, well, this could be the week Notre Dame gets upset again and they prove they're not that good, and they just said, no, watch this, and they just went out and showed their strength.
Yeah. Yeah, like if they win championship, they're going to write that. They're going to write, oh, they were destined and it's the luck of the Irish. They'll write that, but I ain't believing that. They're better. That's how you win games. You win games by executing and being better than the other team. It's not luck, even though sometimes luck is a part of it. Like the fact that Riley Leonard was injured, but he was able to return. They got lucky there, because if he doesn't come back, they don't win that game.
I agree with that.
But you don't depend on luck to win.
Did he get whatever was going on knocked out? Halftime regrouped, came back out, and he was much better in the second half than the first half.
That happened to Nico.
Yeah, Alabama game.
Yep. They knocked some sense into him. He started playing better. But, I mean, that's basically what Nico said himself.
Yep.
So that's the trick. Before the Syracuse game, Nico has to get tackled in the locker room to get ready to play.
You know, I don't know that's the best idea.
That's a terrible idea. Yeah, I wouldn't do it at all. But calling plays to get him in the rhythm
Yeah, that's
is what I would definitely do. And maybe sometimes that includes running the football a little bit.
Swain, I've got an idea for you. Next time you see Lady Vols coach Kim Caldwell, do not tell her that when she gets her recruits in, those will be her players. Don't do that. When we come back, hear what Kim Caldwell said when she was asked about this year's seniors, this year's team, her first team at Tennessee, coming off a loss against LSU. Kim Caldwell, when we come back, 45 minutes to go, and still time for you to join us. Call or text at 865-656-9900. Next to VFL, former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain. I'm Josh Ward. We continue right here on Josh and Swain. Back on Josh and Swain. Thanks for being with us today as we continue in our final hour of the show. If you want to go back and listen, you can always podcast the show. Search Josh and Swain. Would love for you to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can always find our show on demand thanks to Beatty Chevrolet. Alongside VFL and former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain, I'm Josh Ward. Swain, last night the Tennessee Lady Vols lost a tough one against LSU, had a shot until the end to beat the Tigers, but LSU got out of Knoxville with the win, and we can get to how the game played out. But at the very end of Kim Caldwell's press conference, she made a strong statement. During the press conference, a couple of different times, I think, she mentioned the seniors, how they could have beaten Oklahoma, lost, could have beaten LSU, lost. And she talked about reasons why, talked about effort, talked about rebounding. She talked about how she could have been better, and that's something that she'll look at as well. But she mentioned on those occasions the opportunities for the seniors. This is it for them. This is their last run at Tennessee. So at the end of the press conference, John Sartori asked about that, why speaking about the seniors matters to her when she's talking about these losses and these missed opportunities. This is what Kim Caldwell said.
I think for me personally, I don't really I get a little bit offended with, you have time to rebuild. You have time to rebuild. These seniors aren't your players. That offends me. They are my players. They chose to stay, and I chose to coach them. And so I don't want to wait. I don't want people to say, when you get your players in here, these are my players. I want to win for them. I want to win right now. And so these games that we can't get back and they can't get back, yes, maybe they are establishing something for the future, but I want them to be able to have the experience too. I want them to get what they deserve. And I think they deserve to win these last two games. Well, they didn't deserve to win these last two games, but I want that for them.
Kim Caldwell, after the game, that was at the end of her press conference last night following a close loss against a top 10 team, LSU.
Where's the collection plate? I would like to contribute because Kim Caldwell said a word there. One of my biggest pet peeves about first-year coaches or second-year coaches who inherit a program is they make excuses for not winning or not having success because they didn't have their players. And the moment you sign that contract, they are your players. You looked at the roster. You knew what you were signing up for when you decided to be the coach. You looked at those players. And I appreciate that from Kim Caldwell. Think about all the times that first-year coaches have said that publicly. How do you think those juniors and seniors felt? Especially those seniors that don't get credit for help laying the foundation. Like I remember 2013 and Butch Jones' first year, and there were some seniors that bought into what Butch Jones was selling. And the next year they were more successful. The year after that, they were more successful. 16, they were successful, won 9 games, even though they should have won more. But that don't happen without that 13 group of seniors. Josh Heupel, the 2021 season, there were a lot of seniors on that squad that bought into what Josh Heupel was preaching, and that laid the foundation for the 22 team. A lot of times seniors get forgot about when a new coach comes in because we're all thinking about the team and the program and what it's going to look like when the coach gets their own players. Like we're doing it now with Kim Caldwell. When we look at her classes, and it's a top 5 class, and we look at all the talent that's coming in, we said, man, like it looks pretty good now. It looks better than it did last year, but wait till she gets her players. And I'm glad she said that, man. I understand why those players play the way they play for her and for themselves. Oklahoma's ending and last night game explains to us why they play the way they play for Kim Caldwell. It makes all sense in the world now.
Yeah, because the idea of wait till a coach gets his or her players in and you upgrade the talent, that's a lot of what we're talking about. You think things can take off. That can be true, but it's going to be harder for that to all come together if the players that return that welcome that first freshman class or those first 2 classes, if they haven't fully bought in and then division is created, you run into a problem. If you have the right culture that is created right off the bat and you buy into the players that you inherit, and it goes both ways, and then your roster evolves over the next couple of years, it's easier to build out what you want to if the players that are taking on the leadership role believe in what's happening as the young players come in and develop after them.
And think about this too, Josh. Now with the transfer portal, the door swings both ways. So when a new coach comes in, remember we heard reports that Kim Caldwell is meeting with members of last year's team. And there are players on this team that was part of last year's team. Kim Caldwell, during those meetings, could have told those players, hey, you're probably not a good fit for what we want to do here. You're probably not going to play. Here's an opportunity for you to look somewhere else, get a better opportunity to play somewhere else. She could have told players to leave then. She's coaching the players that she wants to coach. Because if she didn't want to coach those players that were on last year's team, she could have told them to leave. She is coaching her players. These are her players that she brought in from the portal and players that were on last year's team that she could have encouraged to go to the portal.
Fans are going to love that and appreciate it too.
I love it.
She said that before the season that, hey, these are my players, but she's backing that up. And you can see the frustration as well. Now, you don't want it to keep happening. You don't want to keep talking about the frustration. You're going to talk about breaking through. These are also good teams. Oklahoma and LSU are really good teams. But Kim Caldwell's message to this team is, hey, you can win a lot of games. You can go far in the postseason. And that's what she's talking about with them needing to improve. She comes out of games talking about rebounding and effort. And I'm sure she's going to look back and see where she could have been better to try to get them that extra 2 to 3 points, 4 or 5 points to make sure they win those basketball games. But they have been better than I think a lot of people have expected to this point, and Kim Caldwell expects them to be better moving forward. Fans are going to love that.
Well, just in the last minute, I mean, I thought there was some errors. I mean, I thought that when, our guard, Spencer, got the ball in the paint, and she was kind of surrounded, I was expecting us to call timeout to try to get, a better shot. She took an off-balance shot in traffic, and, we didn't score in that possession. So I'm a little surprised we didn't call timeout. Not a huge, big deal, but I was surprised. And then defensively, LSU's game winner. The girl got the ball top of the key. Everyone is in help or gap or whatever, and everyone has eyes on the ball handler, including the man that's guarding her, and y'all let her get to the paint and make a layup, game-winning shot? That's bad defense. And I'm pretty sure Kim Caldwell is addressing that and making sure that never happens again. That was too easy for LSU to beat us in the last second shot.
LSU got out of there with a win last night, but the Lady Vols are going to be in more of those games moving forward, and I can see the buy-in from Tennessee's fan base as well. We'll come back, another 30 minutes to go. We have an Attaboy still to hand out, thanks to Native Design. Time for you to join us, 865-656-9900. That's how you can be a part of the show as we continue on Josh and Swain.
The second college football playoff semifinal game tonight in Dallas as Ohio State battles Texas in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic for the right to take on Notre Dame in the national championship game. Kickoff for tonight set for 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. The Super Wild Card weekend in the NFL kicks off tomorrow. Chargers battle the Texans in Houston, 4:30 p.m. kick on CBS and Paramount Plus, and an NFC North battle in the nightcap as the Pittsburgh Steelers take on Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, 8 p.m. kick over on Prime Video. SEC basketball tomorrow. 8th-ranked Florida on the road to take on Cal and Arkansas. Number 17, Oklahoma in Athens to battle Georgia. A top 10 matchup featuring number 5, Alabama, taking on number 10, Texas A&M. Number 6, Kentucky gets number 14, Mississippi State. And Rick Barnes returns home to Austin as the top-ranked Tennessee Volunteers battle the Texas Longhorns. More Josh and Swain on the way next. Stay safe on this snowy Friday. I'm Tommy Sweat.
You got an Attaboy. That's what I'm looking for now.
Yeah, I just DM'd you. I didn't know if you saw it. Um, us today. We are in the final half hour of the show, getting ready for a big sports weekend. Tennessee at Texas. Tomorrow in basketball, 6 o'clock tip. We'll have the Vol Network coverage there. Swain, just to carry over from last segment's conversation, we also have an Attaboy to hand out here in just a few minutes in this segment. We got a text saying, I think Kim Caldwell is the new age Pat Summitt. Really like her. She fits in with all Danny White is doing at Tennessee, which kind of fits into some of the conversation we had earlier in the show. Mike Keith on Sports Talk earlier today talking about Tennessee wants to win at everything. Everything school is everything, not just sports on the field, on the court, but that Kim Caldwell fits. She does have that mindset. She's not saying, we'll get there at some point. She wants to win. You can tell she is bothered when they do not.
I get a little uncomfortable when I hear comparisons to Pat Summitt. That's tough for Kim Caldwell. I mean, obviously you want to be the best of the best, and Pat Summitt is. And so I want to be really, really careful with always mentioning Pat when it comes to Kim Caldwell, because maybe she just needs to be the best Kim Caldwell she could be. Sometimes trying to be General Nealon or Bob Kessler never tried to be John Ward. He just tried to be Bob Kessler because there's not another John Ward. We've had so many great legendary coaches here, and sometimes like the comparison man, it's really tough to live up to. And so I'm not saying don't ever mention Pat Summitt. I'm just saying I'm a little bit more conscious and aware of when to use Pat Summitt and when to compare Kim Caldwell to Pat Summitt. It's not something that it just slips out of my mouth easy, because like there's not going to be another Pat Summitt. And so I know Kim probably wouldn't say this or step up and say it because it'll come off wrong. But for me, like I'm going to let her be Kim Caldwell and be the best Kim Caldwell she can be, which, boy, she got a chance to be a good one with her style of play and what we've seen so far in her first year, knowing that there's more talented players coming. But I don't know, man. I get a little weird when I hear every time we talk about Kim Caldwell, we mention Pat Summitt. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, Pat Summitt she can be considered the greatest in any conversation. You're talking about any coach, any kind of accomplishment in sports. She's up there with the best of the best. Kim Caldwell's Kim Caldwell. She has a chance. Like, expecting her to win the amount of championships or the amount of games would be unfair to her or anybody coming in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I see what you're saying.
But we did that with the previous two basketball coaches because they played for Pat Summitt.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, man.
There might be I'm not saying it's the stare. I think Kim does have a look when she's not happy, though.
But Kelly had the look too.
Yeah.
Kelly had the look. Man, at the end of the day, it's great to try to live up to what Pat Summitt did here and try to reach those goals. I mean, as a competitor, I mean that's what you want if you Kim Caldwell. I'm just saying, for me, I'm going to be a little bit more careful about dropping Pat Summitt when talking about Kim Caldwell, because that's hard, man. That's hard to live up to.
Yeah, you know how it goes. Everybody gets compared.
Yeah.
Everybody gets compared. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I get it.
He's Jason Swain. He's a VFL. I'm Josh Ward. 865-656-9900. We appreciate the text. We'll keep the text box open between now and 3 o'clock when we sign off. Right now, we hand out today's Attaboy. And Swain, we hand out Attaboys and Attagirls every day, thanks to Native Design. Find them online, nativetn.com, your local custom pool and hardscape specialist. And saw this news. I think the announcement has come out here in the last couple of days. Saw it earlier today that we're talking about everything going on with the Vol Network, and we have a couple months to go, a little more than 2 months to go, with Tennessee will plan on 3 months to go, roughly, with Bob Kessling as the play-by-play voice for Tennessee basketball. He's wrapped up the football season. Well, he has been named the 2024 Sportscaster of the Year in the state of Tennessee by NSMA Sports Media. And we mentioned yesterday, hey, continue to celebrate Bob Kessling and all that he has done for the University of Tennessee in the world of broadcasting. And that will take place with the NSMA Sports Media acknowledgement as Bob Kessling is the Sportscaster of the Year for 2024 in the state of Tennessee. So an attaboy to Bob Kessling.
Heck yeah, man. Pro's pro. Prepared. I mean, I've always admired how he's carried himself. The injuries that he has experienced over the last couple of years, and how he tries to power through and not let it affect the job getting done. Watching him interview Josh Heupel after the game, just watching him work, man, I've picked up on so many really good habits from Bob Kessling.
Yep, the prep work, the details that are required, and the consistency and time that is required is incredible. So Bob Kessling, he is on his victory tour right now,
Yep.
and he'll want it to be about the Tennessee basketball team and what they're trying to get done on the court. But you will hear Bob Kessling telling you that story along the way. So he gets our Attaboy today as he's the 24th Sportscaster of the Year in the state of Tennessee by NSMA Sports Media. And every day we hand out Attaboys and Attagirls thanks to Native Design, which turns ordinary yards into exceptional escapes. The snow falling today here in East Tennessee might make you think about, and springtime right around the corner. I'll be ready for it. Well, they can help transform your outdoor space into a breathtaking retreat. They can help you with what you want to make happen. They can help you with the ideas. It's where friends connect, memories are made. Native Design can transform your outdoor space for you. They're your local custom pool and hardscape specialist. Call 865-310-3256. You can visit the website, nativetn.com. Native Design, turning ordinary yards into exceptional escapes. We will come back for one more segment of Josh and Swain before we escape from today's show. One more segment to go. Tyler and Will taking over at 3 o'clock. We continue for another 20 minutes right here on 99.1 The Sports Animal and AM 640 The Sports Monster.
You saw Mac. Actually, already, I think.
big football weekend with NFL playoff action beginning tomorrow. Another semifinal game tonight in college with Texas and Ohio State. Big college basketball weekend. The entire SEC slate could be eligible, Swain, in a few minutes when we hit the power poll. We'll have a look at what you can watch this upcoming weekend. You've got snow to watch outside, so big weekend coming up. Very excited for it. Had a lot of fun this Friday afternoon.
Heck yeah, man. Technology allows us to be able to put on a kick butt show, even though the conditions are not ideal for traveling. So it's been fun, man. Surprised that we're already at the 3-hour mark. That went by fast.
Hey, Bruce texted in and said, well said, Swain, with what you said about Pat Summitt, Kim Caldwell comparisons that'll be made. Lauren texted in and said the same. Got to settle. Pat is the GOAT. So I agree with Swain 100%.
Yeah, it just
let Kim be herself.
I'm not saying don't ever say it. I'm just saying we hear it so much. Like we're so comfortable with just saying it, and I just like I want to reserve that for when she wins a championship or special moment, not after a loss to LSU on a Thursday night, and then again after a game on Sunday. Like I just don't want to do it every time Tennessee plays. Like it's just the time and the place for it. That's all.
Nothing wrong with that. I agree with you too.
Let me ask you this. Did you see what Matt Zenit said about Miami's pursuit of a quarterback? Something that they have, been doing for a couple weeks now. And
no, I did not. The news of the day is Carson Beck is transferring to Miami. Everybody's surprised by that, but Carson Beck, I'm being facetious. News came out yesterday that he was entering the transfer portal, and then word came out during our show today that he has signed with Miami. What did Matt Zenit say?
So Matt Zenit of 247 Sports said Miami had been working aggressively behind the scenes for weeks to add a portal quarterback and had explored multiple different options that didn't end up coming together or materializing. In the end, though, the Hurricanes wind up with the number 1 ranked quarterback to enter the portal this cycle. Now, Josh, I ain't the smartest dude, but I can see some word salad play here. Because all this says to me is Miami have been tampering. Miami had been tampering behind the scenes for weeks to add a portal quarterback and had explored multiple different options, a.k.a. multiple different quarterbacks they tried to tamper with, and they couldn't get them. And this time, they got the quarterback they tampered with in Carson Beck. That's what it should have said. That's how I read it.
Well, you might have read it that way, but Swain, we know that Miami could not have tampered with any of these quarterbacks. We know that.
Well, they did, and it doesn't bother me.
Tampering's against the rules.
Well, it did. It doesn't bother me. I'm not the tampering police or anything, so I'm not bringing it up to try to tell on them and get them in trouble. I just find it interesting now that schools are not afraid of getting in trouble. Like schools were trying to be a little slick about it at the beginning. Because remember when Jordan Addison from Pittsburgh hit the portal? And there was talks about him going to USC before he hit the portal. And then he hit the portal. He at least waited a couple days to make it seem like he was listening to other teams, maybe taking a visit, really thinking about it. He made it believable that USC didn't tamper with him. Carson Beck hit the portal, no contact tag, committed to Miami the next day. The difference is, man, teams don't care now. It's obvious that tampering is going on, and it was obvious that Miami was tampering with quarterbacks. We know this. We definitely know this here on Rocky Top, and they got their guy in Carson Beck.
It is a good get.
It's a great kid. It's a great kid. You can say, oh, well, it's a downgrade from Cam Ward. Well, Carson Beck was the number 1 quarterback on the board before this year. Mm-hmm. He can bounce back and have that type of performance and be the number 1 quarterback off the board this upcoming season. He could be better than Cam Moore, which that'd be very hard to do. but he certainly has the talent to do so.
Schools that have, it hasn't happened often, but schools that have gotten in trouble for tampering, how do they do that? Was it Florida State that got in trouble? They were giving Amarius Mims. He gets everybody in trouble, but giving him a ride or something, then he just goes back to Georgia. You remember that story?
Yeah, I remember that story. I mean, if you get caught for tampering, that just means you're being reckless. That's all.
Yeah. Iowa. They didn't even get to keep the player. Just went back to Bama. All right, Swain. We just have a few minutes to go before we close out today's show. Let's hit the power poll. All righty, Swain, the weekend is upon us. This is a fun time. We have a lot going on. We have postseason in football. We're in conference play and college basketball, other sports that have activities going on. We take a look at what to watch this upcoming weekend. A lot of people snowed in as well, so curious to see. What do you have on your list?
Man, I'm just going to throw some things out there that I'm trying to watch. And I'm starting in NFL with the NFL playoffs. My goodness, what a nice first weekend of matchups. You got the Steelers and Ravens in round one. That's going to be fantastic. How about the Rams and Vikings? You have Kevin O'Connell, who came from the Sean McVay tree, going up against each other in the first round. You got Packers, Eagles, Broncos, Bills. That Broncos defense is really, really good. And this is the first step for Josh Allen, who looks like he's going to be the MVP and should be the MVP. And then you go over to men's college basketball. Right here in this conference, you got Kentucky on the road against Mississippi State. You got Alabama on the road against Texas A&M. Alabama A&M, that's the top 10 matchup. How about Tennessee at Texas? Oklahoma, who's ranked 17th, going on the road at Georgia. Georgia just beat Kentucky. So, man, there's a lot of really good games this weekend.
I'm so excited for the entire SEC slate this weekend through the season because every game is going to feel like it matters so much. And there's a long way to go for it to all play out, but there's some teams that are already saying, man, we better get things figured out quickly. Texas is one of those, and Tennessee's even saying, as good as they know they are, we don't want to go 0-2 this week. So my what to watch this weekend, honorable mention to a movie of choice. It's kind of a movie weekend. The problem is you have these big games late at night, but Den of Thieves 2 out this weekend, so anybody may not be getting to the theater locally. You might be saving that for next week, but if you're in a easier place to travel, that could be on your list. Number 5, Iowa State at Texas Tech. That's a huge game. Iowa State is a team to pay attention to nationally. Choosing from the SEC was difficult. I chose Kentucky at Mississippi State. I'm just intrigued. Kentucky going there, Mississippi State, a team that's probably surprising some people because you're not thinking about them as much as you think about others. I have Green Bay, Philly, number 3, with Jalen Hurts cleared, good to go. Anytime the Ravens and Steelers play, I'm into it. That's number 2. Texas, Ohio State, number 1 tonight, with obvious thoughts on Tennessee and Texas tomorrow at 6 o'clock. That's the power poll, what to watch this weekend.
A lot of good stuff to tune into.
Swain, will close with this. 1 to 10 scale. Tomorrow, Tennessee at Texas. How you feeling? Confidence level. Tennessee bounces back, gets a win against the Longhorns.
8.5.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Zakai's a point guard. Yeah, I don't think Chastainier's going to shoot poorly again. I think this team is going to bounce back. And Texas, man, they're not Florida.
No, they aren't. No, they're not. Tennessee, we already have lines out tomorrow. Tennessee's a 6.5-point favorite. On the road, that's pretty strong compliment to Tennessee.
Very strong.
6.5-point favorite at Texas tomorrow.
Yeah, very strong.
Swain, we'll see what happens. We'll be back Monday at noon to discuss. Have a great week and have fun. Get those snowballs ready.
Oh, you too, man. I can't wait to
unleash.
I can't wait, man.
Everybody have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. Thank you for hanging out with us today on Josh and Swain.